Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, we are not chasing empires or unraveling wars. There are no swords clashing or kings shouting orders from thrones. No crusades, no castles. Just you and the steady rhythm of a life long past. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely appreciate what I do here. Imagine yourself on a worn dirt path, winding softly through a valley that hasn't changed in centuries. The air is cool, the light is fading, and ahead, smoke curls from the chimney of a thatched roof cottage. In this world, there is no rush. There are no emails, no buzzing phones, only seasons, the slow changing of the sky, and the endless, patient work of people just like you, only much, much slower. This is the story of the people who lived quietly beneath the banners of kings who never made it into the great books of war or conquest. This is the world of medieval peasants. Ordinary souls, quiet lives, and believe it or not, more sleep than most of us can dream of. So settle in, let the outside world fall away, and let us drift softly into the first chapter. Imagine yourself waking with the sun, or more accurately, with the roosters. Your home is a simple one-room cottage made of timber and packed earth, its walls gently breathing in the morning chill. The straw mattress is uneven but familiar. The hearth, your only warmth, has long since gone cold. The world outside is painted in grey mist, and the dew sits heavy on everything. On the stone, on the grass, even on the wooden handle of your hoe leaning by the door. You rise slowly. There is no alarm, no commute. But there is work, always work. Life in a medieval village was not glamorous, nor was it ever truly still. But it was repetitive, rhythmic, and bound to the cycles of the land. You step outside. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth, wood smoke, and hay. You can hear your neighbor's chickens already fussing, and the soft crunch of someone's boots in the frost-covered mud. Your day begins not with ambition, but with necessity. The field does not care how tired you are. The cows need milking, and the grain must be ground. And always, the fire must be fed. There is no clock here. Time is told by the sky, by the sun's lazy climb, and by the church bell's call in the distance. If your village has one, many did not. Your clothing is coarse wool, itchy at first, but you no longer notice. It was likely made by someone in your family, perhaps even you. It smells faintly of lanolin, of ash, and sometimes of the smoke from the last evening's fire. Your meals are plain and predictable. Bread made from rye or barley, often coarse and dense. A bit of cheese if you're lucky. Porridge, always porridge. And on rare occasions, a bit of meat, perhaps salted pork, or a small fish. Yet hunger was a constant shadow. The harvest was never guaranteed, and even a healthy village could be brought low by an unexpected frost or a summer that simply refused to rain. Still, life went on. Children played in the dirt, dogs barked at passing carts, and elders watched from worn benches, their eyes clouded with memory. The work was endless, but it was also familiar, comforting in its own way. Sowing, reaping, spinning, weaving. The rhythm of their lives was the rhythm of the soil. And in the evenings, when the light faded and the fields quieted, the village would grow still again. Men and women would gather near hearths, sharing slow stories and simple songs, not in pursuit of entertainment, but in the ritual of ending the day together. There was no ambition for more, for better, for faster. There was only the season, and the hope that tomorrow would be as kind as today. Theirs was not an easy life, but it was one with rhythm. And in that rhythm, there was peace. Now that we've wandered through the simple rhythms of a medieval day, let us shift gently into the quiet of night, a time not defined by scrolling screens or late-night television, but by stars, firelight, and the slow turning of the moon. You may be surprised to know that for most of medieval Europe, people did not sleep in one long stretch the way we often try to today. Instead, they followed a different pattern, a forgotten rhythm, something historians now call segmented sleep. Imagine yourself lying down early, shortly after the sun sets, not because you're exhausted, but because there is little reason to remain awake. The hearth flickers gently, casting long shadows across the wooden beams. Outside, the night air settles into silence, punctuated only by the occasional owl or distant howl of a fox. This first sleep, called the first slumber, would last for several hours, perhaps until midnight or shortly after. It was deep and natural, a descent into a darkness unbothered by screens or artificial light. And then, quite normally, you would awaken. Not in panic, not in frustration, but simply because that is what the body did. For an hour or more, the household would stir, quietly, softly. Some would sit by the fire, gently poking at embers. Others would read prayers, recite psalms, or simply lie in bed and reflect. In some homes, couples would share this twilight interval for private conversation, for intimacy, or for staring at the ceiling, thinking. All under the gentle glow of a candle or the faint shimmer of moonlight through oiled parchment windows. There was no guilt in this waking, no worry about sleep schedules. It was simply part of the rhythm. Then slowly they would drift back down again, into the second sleep, which carried them until dawn, often lighter but still restful. The kind of sleep that ends as birds begin to sing and the light begins to return to the world. This two-part sleep is not just poetic, it is now supported by scientific evidence. Without modern lighting, the human body naturally tends toward this pattern. Some even suggest that we too would follow this rhythm if left in total darkness long enough. In between these two sleeps, the world was still. The village was not alive with nightlife or bustling with late errands. It was quiet, meditative. And there was, in that silence, a kind of permission to just be. Even the flickering candlelight had its place. Candles were precious, often made of tallow, sometimes beeswax for the wealthier homes. The scent was earthy and faintly sweet, and the light it gave off, soft, golden, and just enough to see by. This darkness was not something to be feared, but something embraced, a part of the day as important and natural as waking or working. In that darkness, the mind could wander, stories could be whispered, and time could stretch, unmeasured, unrushed. So imagine yourself there, lying in a quiet cottage, listening to the last crackles of fire, knowing that your sleep would come again soon. Not because you forced it, but because it was waiting for you, like a friend returning. This slower, more forgiving view of rest reminds us that sleep is not just a task, but a rhythm, a returning tide. And though we may no longer live by candlelight, the memory of that rhythm still lingers, just below the surface, waiting to be remembered. Now that we've drifted through their sleep, let us return slowly to the land. For a medieval peasant, the land was not just a place to live, it was the center of existence. It held your labor, your food, your birth, and often your burial. The earth beneath your feet was both burden and sanctuary. Imagine yourself in early spring. The cold has finally released its grip. The fields are soft with thaw, and the distant hills are still tinged with the pale grey of winter's last breath. You stand at the edge of a narrow strip of land, your plot, assigned by the lord of the manor or inherited through generations. This strip is long and thin, divided carefully to allow fair access to all. Around you, other villagers begin their work too, spaced out, but each engaged in the same ancient rhythm. Tools are simple: a wooden plough, an iron-tipped hoe, your own hands. The earth is heavy, but it is familiar. It smells of promise, damp, grainy, rich. Here, farming is not innovation. A rhythm repeated across centuries. Sow, wait, hope, and harvest. The three-field system dominates much of Europe. One field planted in autumn, usually with rye or wheat, another in spring, with oats, barley or legumes, and the third left fallow, to rest, to recover. This rotation keeps the soil alive. It is not flashy, not fast, but it works. You do not own the land, you hold it. As a serf, you are bound to it. Not as a slave, but as one tethered to duty. You owe labor to your lord, days spent working not your own plot, but his fields. Your taxes are paid not in coins, but in chickens, in bushels of grain, in time. Even your right to bake bread in the communal oven may come at a price. Calm. Still, your life is not defined by oppression alone. There is dignity in the labor. There is pride in rows ploughed straight, in animals kept fed through winter. And there is comfort in knowing that, just as your father did, just as your children may do, you are part of a cycle older than memory. It is a strange dance, unequal yet interdependent. Both sides praying to the same sky for rain, both dreading the same failed season. You may not read, you may not travel, but you know the soil. Its texture between your fingers, its moods, when it will yield and when it will betray you. Records kept in manor rolls describe these moments not with drama, but with monotony. 2 pigs lost to illness. 20 bushels short due to frost. Facts, quiet, unforgiving. Even today, beneath some modern fields in Europe, archaeologists have found these same furrow patterns, still etched in the earth, invisible to the eye, but unmistakable from the sky. The rhythm of their lives is quite literally still there. So, imagine again. Your back sore, your hands caked in mud, but your harvest, such as it is, tucked safely into the village granary, your belly filled with coarse bread and a bit of onion, and your mind, already drifting toward the quiet of winter when the land sleeps. And now we arrive at what might be the most unexpected part of peasant life. Its moments of joy, its slowness, its softness. We often think of the Middle Ages as harsh and relentless, and it was. But like any life, it had its spaces in between. Moments of laughter, simple celebration, and the subtle hum of community. Imagine yourself on a summer afternoon. The fields are green and full and the sun stretches lazily across the village square. Today is not for planting. It is not for paying dues or mending tools. Today is a feast day. There were many, dozens across the calendar. Saints' days, seasonal festivals, holy weeks, each one marked by bells, procession, and a welcome break from the usual toil. The manor might sponsor a roast, or perhaps a cask of ale is brought out and shared. Children chase each other through the grass, old women gossip near the church steps, and music, simple, rhythmic, drifts from a lone fiddle or flute. The air smells of bread, of fire and something sweet, perhaps honey cakes or stewed fruit. This is not a time of grandeur, but it is a time of pause. In the quiet evenings between such days, gossip weaves its way through narrow lanes. Who traded extra eggs for wool? Who was seen sneaking glances at the miller's son? Who told a joke so dry even the priest cracked a smile? In a village of perhaps 100 souls, privacy is a rare thing. But so is loneliness. You know every face, and every face knows yours. At the heart of the village, socially, if not always physically, stands the church. Its wooden doors weathered, its small bell calling not just for worship, but for rhythm. The passing of time was measured in masses, in marriages, in funerals. And just beside the church you might find the alehouse, not a tavern of wild abandon, but a quiet place where alewives serve weak beer and where men discuss the weather for too long. No rush, no drama, only the warmth of shared space. There is comfort in repetition, the same prayers, the same fields, the same faces. A constant rhythm, like waves breaking softly on a forgotten shore. Even in winter, when the work slows and hunger nips at the edges, there is time for storytelling. You gather by the fire with your family, perhaps a dozen of you beneath one thatched roof. The firewood pops, the smoke rises in lazy trills. And someone begins a tale, passed down and worn smooth over time. Stories of saints and beasts, of trickster foxes and kindly monks. Nothing too thrilling, nothing that would rouse the blood. Just enough to fill the dark hours with warmth and shared breath. And when the story ends, when the last ember glows orange and tired, you lie down again, beneath layers of wool, your mind full of nothing urgent, just voices and warmth and stillness. The medieval peasant did not have wealth, they did not have power, but they had rhythm, and in that rhythm they found a kind of peace that modern life rarely offers. So imagine yourself, your work behind you, your belly filled with soup and rye, your neighbors humming soft tunes, and the stars slowly blinking awake overhead. You do not need to rise early tomorrow. The fields will wait, the sky will turn, and sleep will find you once again. And on those quiet afternoons, when there was no feast, no fair, no cause to gather, still the village hummed with quiet life. A mother might hum softly while washing linens in the stream, her hands red from cold water, the linen flapping gently in the wind, like sails left to dream. Nearby, a child trails a stick through the mud, tracing lines no one else will see, writing a world all their own. At the edge of the fields, old men rest on logs, carved by decades of waiting. They speak slowly, if at all, mostly about the sky or the strange ache in their knees that always seems to know when rain is coming. Dogs doze in the sun, chickens wander without urgency, and the sound of a distant hammer, steady, metallic, marks the blacksmith's patience, not just his skill. Inside the homes, life flows in small acts of care. A daughter learning to weave under the eye of her aunt. A boy watching closely as his grandfather shapes a wooden spoon. Each motion purposeful, unhurried. The pace of the day is set not by urgency, but by light. By the warmth slanting in through shutters. By the length of shadows on the dirt floor. And when dusk begins to gather again, as it always does, meals are simple but shared. A pot of pottage warmed over the hearth, a crust of bread broken into a bowl. Sometimes, if fortune is kind, an egg, a scrap of bacon, or the very last of the apples, soft and sweet. Gratitude, here, is not spoken loudly. It is lived, quietly, in a way each portion is passed around, in a way chairs are offered to the elderly first, in the silence that falls before the first spoon is lifted. As the stars begin to blink above the village, the lanes grow quiet, doors creak closed, voices lower, and the warmth of shared space deepens. Someone tells a story again, one that's been told 100 times, but no one minds. The telling is the comfort, not the surprise. It's in these repetitions, in these hushed, ordinary hours, that peace was found. Not in grandeur, not in abundance, but in the rhythm of rest, of return, of enough. There were no alarms, no clocks, no schedules to manage. The only measure was the body, the bell, and the sky. So you listen to the fire, to the quiet breathing of your kin, to the wind brushing softly against the thatch overhead. You close your eyes, and somewhere in the village, a candle is pinched out, and another day ends, as it always does. And in that closing silence, in that darkened room warmed by breath and embers, you are no longer separate from them. You are part of their rhythm, part of their stillness, drifting, as they did, into quiet sleep. And now, dear listener, our time among the quiet hills and hearths of the medieval world draws gently to a close. We have wandered fields sown by forgotten hands, listened to the crackle of firewood in modest homes, and watched as villagers drifted into dreams beneath woolen blankets and low wooden beams. Their lives were not easy, but they were lived in rhythm, with the seasons, with the soil, with the stars. In many ways, these people who lived so long ago knew rest in a way we have forgotten. They rose with the sun. They worked not for ambition, but for survival. And when the work was done, they stopped. They paused. They gathered. And they slept. They slept deeply, fully, twice even. And in the spaces between those sleeps, they found moments of peace, in prayer, in thought, in each other. Today we often chase time. We fill every hour. We resist stillness. But perhaps, hidden in the dust of these quiet lives, there is something we've lost, and something worth remembering. So as you lie there now, warm, safe, the world softened around you, perhaps you too can begin to let go. Let your breath follow the slow rhythm of theirs. Let your thoughts settle like ash in the hearth. There is nothing more to do, nothing urgent. No harvest to worry over, no distant bell calling your name. Just this moment, this quiet, this rest. The stars outside your window may be the same they once gazed up at, centuries ago. And perhaps, if you listen closely, you can still hear the whisper of wind over old furrows, the hush of footsteps on a morning path, the rhythm of a life, slow enough to sleep through. Good night, traveler, and may your dreams be gentle.